From a childhood filled with hardship to the pinnacle of physical greatness, Clancy Ross shows us the power of bodybuilding to completely transform someone's life. This Silver Era legend has a very cool story, so stick around as we explore his achievements, training, and legacy. Clarence Ross, also known as Clancy, was born on October 26, 1923, in Oakland, California. He was the second of 4 siblings born into a very unfortunate situation. His parents divorced when the kids were still young, and shortly after that, his mother died. His father was a truck driver who supposedly wasn't able to care for him, so Clancy spent most of his early childhood in orphanages and then his teens in various foster homes. Keep in mind that all of this was in the middle of the Great Depression, so yeah, certainly not the ideal way to grow up. Throughout high school, he worked most nights as a janitor's assistant, and this is also when he became interested in bodybuilding. Since he was making a bit of money, he was able to buy some training courses and a set of weights. He even started a little lifting club with a bunch of his friends so they could train together. Shortly after Clancy turned 18, he witnessed the horrors of Pearl Harbor, which motivated him to enlist in the Army Air Force. For his first year in service, his bodybuilding was interrupted because he was getting transferred around a lot while working as an aircraft mechanic and he didn't have access to weights. In 1943, he was sent to an airbase in Las Vegas, which is where he could finally continue his bodybuilding because he got transferred to the physical training department due to his exceptional shape and strength. Here he would be overseen by fellow bodybuilder Corporal Leo Stern. The two became close friends and training partners, while also being responsible for the strength training of thousands of soldiers during the war. And that's what brings us to this very rare image. We have Clancy on the left and Leo on the right. And I want you all to take note of Clancy's physique. His upper body is already looking impressive, for sure, but the lower body was very clearly lagging behind. He was only 19 years old at the time. The war was raging on, but the young lad knew what he truly wanted to do. And just a couple years later, he would get his chance. Clancy packed on a serious amount of muscle during his time training with Leo Stern, and by 1945 the war was coming to an end, so he was ready to enter his first bodybuilding competition, the Mr. America. We can see in this image from that day the massive gains he made, particularly in the lower body. Once again, we have Clancy standing next to Leo, giving us a near perfect comparison to the image from 2 years earlier. Amazingly, this 21-year-old guy, who was completely unknown at the time, would actually win the show and become the youngest person to secure the Mr. America title. He was also the first winner which had never appeared in a muscle magazine. But boy, was that about to change. The following year, Clancy won the 1946 Pro Mr. America. In 1948, he won the Mr. USA, leaving second place to none other than Steve Reeves. In 1949, he won Mr. North America, defeating a lineup of Silver Era legends such as Alan Stefan, Floyd Page, Armand Tani, and others. Throughout the years, his physique just kept getting better and better. His chest was always a highlight, but by this time it reached a level of thickness that was just way ahead of his peers. The broad shoulders, powerful blocky abs, and massive legs made for a tremendously impressive looking physique, which did not compromise on proportions or symmetry. Take a look at the unbelievable gains he made in his calves as well. Clancy was one of the best posers of the time, with unforgettable routines that involved 10 minutes of successive poses without any repetition. He also tried to defend his Mr. USA title in 1949, but the undefeated John Grimek ended up taking the win, leaving Clancy in second place and Steve Reeves in third. John Grimek and Clancy Ross were the only 2 bodybuilders to ever place ahead of Steve Reeves in competition, and both of them did it twice. It just shows you that Clancy really was up there with the very best of the Silver Era. He took a couple years off competing during the early 1950s to focus on his own gym business. Which brings us to this magnificent, rare photo of 4 Mr. Americas standing in front of the Clarence Ross Physical Culture Studio in Alameda, California. So left to right, we have Alan Stefan, George Eiferman, Steve Reeves, and of course Clancy Ross. This is just such an awesome photo. It's especially cool to see them all together like this, just chilling in their street clothes. Like many bodybuilders at the time, Clancy also dabbled in acting, appearing in a short film called So You Want to Be a Muscle Man. You can watch the whole thing on Rick Drazen's YouTube channel. I'll leave it linked in the description if you want to check it out. The film is quite ridiculous, though slightly amusing. Basically, this beta male character is too weak to move a piano, so his wife calls over their Giga Chad neighbor, played by Clancy, of course, who absolutely mogs him and comically pushes the piano around with one finger. At least we do get a couple neat clips of Clancy posing, which is quite rare to find for Silver era bodybuilders. Clancy decided to compete again in 1955 when he entered the Pro Mr. Universe in London. This was his chance to perform on the world stage, though unfortunately he caught a terrible flu just as soon as he arrived across the pond, which made him lose a bunch of weight before the show, and his doctor even tried to discourage him from competing. Despite the setback, he still won the tall category with ease, though the overall victory went to Leo Robert. Could he have been Mr. Universe if he never caught that flu? I guess we'll never know. In 1956, he competed for the final time at the Mr. USA, where again he placed second, this time to the legendary and once again undefeated Bill Pearl. So to sum up his career, he came first or second in every competition he entered, and all of them were against fierce rivals at the national or international level. His height was 5 foot 9.5 inches, and he competed at around 185 pounds body weight during his first show, but by the end of his career he was up to around 200 pounds body weight. I'll put his measurements on screen now for those interested. These are from 1945 when he won the Mr. America. Clancy experimented with loads of different training styles, though overall he tended to stick with a full body 3 days per week split, which was popular at the time. In a 1951 article, he commented on how he improved his weak lower body ahead of his Mr. America win. Quote, "I noticed that my legs needed more work, so I decided to specialize on them. While I did not train more than 3 days a week, in studying my own reactions to heavy leg work, I came to the conclusion that it would be necessary for me to split up my training and devote an exercise session entirely to them. With separate sessions for my upper body, I just didn't have the energy to do it all in one workout. So on my 3 weekly workout days, I performed all my upper body work in the morning, and then this same day in the afternoon I did my squats and leg presses as well as calf raises. Basically the exercises remained the same with the exception that I did my leg work during a separate session devoted entirely to them." Again, he experimented a lot and did many specialization phases when he felt he needed them. His training would usually ramp up ahead of a competition. Sometimes he trained multiple times per day, up to 6 days per week. But here's an example of a standard program he used throughout his career. So he would do this 3 times per week, 3 sets of 10 reps each. Squat, calf raise, bench press, bent over row, upright row, barbell curl, reverse curl, tricep curl, and sit-up. He also claimed to have almost never lifted with strict form, instead preferring a cheating style on many of his exercises, which he says was crucial to achieve his level of development. After retiring from competition, Clancy worked for a newspaper in San Francisco for 15 years until he once again opened his own gym, which he ran until he retired in the mid-1980s. He became known as the King of Bodybuilders and was featured on 46 major muscle magazine covers between 1945 and 1996. Joe Weider described him as, quote, "sincere, intelligent, willing to lend a fellow bodybuilder a helping hand, and has helped to lift the sport to a higher level. Clancy continued lifting to the very end of his life, and he died in 2008 at the ripe old age of 84. And that, my friends, was the story of the great Clancy Ross. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like and check out the other videos in my old school bodybuilding playlist. Thanks for watching.